The rhythms are super slow, and the listening is very, very gentle, and you feel so much that, you just see people. You want to master the attitude of openness and hyper-awareness, while still being kind of surrendered to extreme sensorial realities. So it's a crisp, neutral outside eye and a hypersensitive body that is free and open to go with what is there. From the very beginning, I knew it was such an unknown field and a huge one that I wanted to have a lot of time before I put pressure on myself to create a performance to be shared out of it. But I did know what kind of a performance, and I did know, as I said before, my goals. Different rhythms, switching from finding different types of hyper states, private emotional states, anonymous private emotional states. I watched them meditate for 1 year, and I saw nothing, and I stared at them, and I did a lot of meditating myself as well, and we tried to crack that. We just tried to crack it, and at a certain moment it was Louise. Boom! All of a sudden she did a lying meditation, and she knew how to follow the fascia flow and everything, but another sensation came into her body, and something was happening, and she was able to just go with it, and it was amazing. And the first hyper state, like automatic composition hyper state, which was my dream, that it would move out of the just follow the flow, create the pathway and the shapes, as I said before I used to do. So they would just find the listening, and it was a step into this desired, you can move, you can get into animated movements, but and then it just opened, and then it started to open, and each person is a very, very different journey. Sutuan was buried under the ground for a year, and then the volume went up very slowly. So all of a sudden her experiences started to be pushed out into the outside until they were totally moving in space and getting big and amazing. Super lights. Putting the volume up on micro movements, taking them very seriously. So you allow them. There's a lot of discussion like, how do you allow them to be volumized? Volume up, volume up. How can the intensive micro translate and hit the outside? I wanted it to be as strong as possible. Like I wanted to be like a waves over the people, like a tsunami, and still like breaking of pattern. You can rest them, you can do this, but masters of ceremony, with not losing yourself, but very, very open. clear, a little bit too much, forcing, and it turns into theater, or it turns into too clear. It's like you dominate how you experience it, and that's not what we want.
Not fishing for the attention of the audience.
Exactly. Inviting, but you're not pressing. We also were speaking about how not to lose yourself, because they are now for the first time getting audiences in. So how can you, if you get nervous, what do you do? If you feel too vulnerable, how not to close yourself, but how also not to totally lose yourself. And what you're doing there, when all the energy of the people is coming to you. As a performer, we trained for a long time to be able just to access and find again and lose it again, and what is it and how does it feel, and da 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 da. And then now the audience coming, don't lose it, what happens, this is a big part of the work.
Is the memory located somewhere? Is it in the fascia?
In terms of where it's located, the memory inside the body? It's very much psychological.
It's something that's appearing when I'm very open and grounded, and somehow kind of there's a softness in the joints and also in the bones. And at the same time, a very crystal stillness. And then things appear or kick in or whatever. And I don't know what kind of memory that is. It's very hard to capture it, to find exactly the right tone of the state of the material. And maybe I'm not on this point, but as Marcus says often, that I'm swimming in the same pool. With a lot of practice, it will come. But it's really a lot of practice, because it's no reproduction.
It's no reproduction. That is the whole magic of it. It's a little bit faster or a little bit slower. That's not going to destroy, or that the movements aren't precisely. It's never precisely. But we know that certain things will appear, certain movements will appear, certain emotion or whatever it is, the same thing will come to us if they're in the right place.
I visualize this pool that we dive into, and then there's always certain parts of the pool where I always gravitate towards. And this is how all our material, at least for me, my material just kept popping up, and then it just kept popping up, and then, okay, this is, something. And then the belly, the gut ripples for me. It's the psychological, the emotional, and then what ripples from the gut, like here.
And you know exactly how the body feels within each state. This we used a lot, like, did it feel the same? Like in the matter, is the matter in this same kind of sensorial place? Because like that you'll get more and more trust in the realness of it, because otherwise sometimes it would feel like, oh, I'm just swimming, was that it? Or, and that's impossible to then create that kind of material. So, when you're there from all these different places, but also just from the feeling in your body.
Yeah.
Or how the body feels.
Right, like the texture, right?
Yeah, the texture, exactly.
Also to recognize the smell, the feeling of it, the temperature, whatever.
sometimes for emotional states like this, it's really the same thing. You enter it and you know, I'm there. Then if you move a little faster or a little slower, it will not change much. But you feel like you're in the right space. But sometimes it's very hard to revisit. But sometimes you really know, okay, I'm there again. It smells the same. It smells like home or whatever.
Yeah, I had this fragility state where I always cried. But it was emotional, but it was something also physical, I think. Every time I did it, I cried.
Yeah.
And it was not like, oh my god, I need a break afterwards, I'm like out of my... No, it was just part of the state, part of the memory.
We were trying to use language to get at something that is beyond language in a really beautiful way. We refer to the word tone, which of course is also in music, and Katja referred to the smell.
Yeah.
And you've talked a lot about flavors.
Yeah.
So already there's the cross-sensory happening, and it's not like the danger with archiving, or is that this is a memory, and it feels very like a little thing, like a contained object, but you're dealing with things that are about sensory flow and emotional flow.
Yeah.
And I think Sudwang was saying color always to this, like to get the right color.
It's a big emphasis on the private also.
Very.
Like also in rehearsals, there's sometimes the conversation just like turns into super intimate things, very private, and then it goes back into the work, and it's really like the energies that there was a really strong point for me where I suddenly could start to feel like who's next to me, even though I was not seeing, right? Where you suddenly know the different people's energy. Almost like living it more than working it,
Yes.
right?
That's a great way to say it. Because it's like, if you're fully there, no matter what happens, it's very beneficial for the work.
Yeah.
Because then the next day, it actually had supported what happens next day to you. It's really like an ongoing, everything. It's really merging a bit. It's like almost like a lifestyle in a way. Is that too much? It's like like the Buddha in a sense has that thing where they live and breathe it. The attitude is not that extreme, but it's still influencing how we move and shift and cognitive plasticity, and how it has ripple effects between us. It's so it's also in the realm of healing. There's not a separation in the journey. Yeah. I would like to, there will be Johanna walking in, and then there needs to be some kind of a shift in the music. It can be the same, but there's definitely a new tone or a new element coming in.
It's a bit hard to do it with this setup at the moment because you get something going and can't just switch on to something else.
It's first recording. was super hyper casual and we could see the transitions. They functioned the same as when we did it the other way in silence. So that's great. And I liked a lot of the music tests, actually. They were really quirky and psycho, like you, right now, in the piece. So, this is my hardest day, you know, I have to be very gentle with me. Getting more and more psycho, I have to say, and I like it. I think it was totally scary when she joined you there, smiling like that, and you're just like, you are scary.
The music is
And
pretty
I like
psycho.
it. Yeah. And I wanted strange, scary, psychological, casual tryout test. I want all these flavors to be there. Yeah, I want it to be very strange and surprising show. And that is almost like many different styles in one show. And that's pretty hard, but I think we can do it. Now I saw that we can really do it. So now we just have to play a bit more. It just looked like, I don't know, what are they, crazy women? Or is it a representation of an inner state that somebody else is doing? Or
instead of going back and up, it was kind of, you know,
That's a
kind of,
difficult thing, yeah, that's why I'm so...
like, the authenticity of the state is everything. So you send not too long and then you fall into it. And when you fall into it, authentically, it's not very fast, but so it's not about the speed, it's a transition, so you're on your way somewhere, you don't get stuck somewhere and dwell in it. It's like you fall into full-on ecstasy, and that, in its own authentic speed, brings you into the position, so you're like on your way somewhere. This is what is important. How can you make a choreographic or I don't know if I should say movement vocabulary out of this kind of a practice? A movement vocabulary to be harnessed for performances or choreographic work. That was the big challenge that we wanted to get into. This is the work, like that's how wild the region is here. And why I work with people I know.